yesterday when we had this event. We all miss Barry, a larger-than-life presence, an innovator. But Sheila, you, Vicky, and the team has done a great job. And you're still blazing trails at USEA, and the event like this is a clear testament to that. You heard about innovation and technology, which is going to be my key focus from our previous speakers. I want to just peel the onion a bit, and what is the vision of innovation? Karen mentioned, if you're looking at low carbon resource initiative as a point of innovation, that's just one aspect of innovation. What is it about? How is the industry coming together? But before we go there, let's look at what is the driver behind this innovation. Karen mentioned necessity is the mother of invention and innovation. What is that necessity? So the necessity is, how do we get to a net zero future that many of our electric gas utilities have already committed by 2050, and do that while society still enjoys affordable and reliable energy? And if you look at the last 15 years, Tom Kuhn mentioned the electric sector is 33% cleaner. But if you look at overall economy, we have been able to take 1 gigaton out in the last 15 years. In 2005, US CO2 emission was 6 gigaton related to energy production, delivery, and use. Today, it's 5 gigaton. So 1 gigaton in 15 years. To take the remainder of 5, if we have the same path of acceleration, it's going to take 75 years. Clearly, we want to accelerate. But another key thing in the last 15 years, the average retail price of electricity have remained essentially constant. So now, how do we get to this future where an average US household that earns $45,000 and they spend 10% of their income on energy, gasoline, natural gas, electricity? How do we get to this transition? And what is the challenge to get there? And maybe this average US household actually pays less. Their energy bill goes down. And that's the grand necessity we have. We will need to continue to clean the electric sector. 33% clean in the last 15 years. In the next 10 years, we can double it. It's not going to be easy. We got to make sure the largest carbon-free source of energy, nuclear, still stays online. We will have renewable and wind. The cost is coming down. 8% of energy is coming from wind and solar today. It could be 4x, 5x time. That's what our analysis shows. If you look at what's happening in electric transportation, and give you an example on how innovation shapes our future. If you were in 2010 and you wanted a 300-mile electric vehicle, the battery would have cost you $70,000. The battery would have weighed 1,500 pounds. Today, just 10 years from now, 10 years from 2010, that same battery, instead of costing $70,000, will cost $10,000. Instead of a 1,500-pound weight, it's going to be 750 pounds weight. And we fully expect in this decade that thing to go down. Another 50% reduction in cost and a 50% improvement in energy density. So electrification of transportation, we're at the cusp of it, and it's going to happen. But to do all these, to come to a future where 6 out of 10 cars may be electric in 2030, to come to a future where 30%, 40% of energy could be coming from renewables, we have to reimagine the grid. This is an innovation that has been happening for a long time, but we need to supercharge that. We need to make sure that the grid is ready and the grid is resilient so that we can bring in 6 out of 10 cars as electric. Also, we need to make sure the grid continues to be clean. And there are innovation happening in the digital technologies that will get us there. But let me pause and look at the longer term. Let's say the electric sector gets cleaner, 80% cleaner, 90% cleaner. That only addresses 1/3 of that 5 gigaton we still have now as an emission. What do we do with hard to electrify sectors? You can't electrify a cement industry. You can't electrify a steel industry. You can't electrify shipping. You can't electrify airlines. What do we do heating? Karen mentioned that low-cost natural gas is what's heating 180 million of our household. So what do we do with heating? What do we do with hard to decarbonize sector? And the electric sector that got 33% clean, it got clean because of natural gas. 2/3 of its 33% came from natural gas contribution, coal to gas conversion. 1/3 of it came from new wind and new solar. So you have that opportunity of continuing to clean the electric sector, but when you look at 2035 and beyond, what do you do with your natural gas turbines that you're building today and that you have built in the last decade? That brings us to the point that what Karen mentioned, that last year we launched a 5-year initiative. It's a moonshot. We call it Low Carbon Resource Initiative. Type Low Carbon Resource Initiative on your search engine and you'll get to our website and you'll see how we are partnering with GTI. And let me just talk about what that is about. We have more than 33 gas, electric, and manufacturers, innovators, GE, Mitsubishi, who have joined this $100 million initiative. We expect another 30 more to join this year. So the industry has come together. We have a fantastic opportunity to work with national labs, to work with innovators, to take some of the technologies and scale it up so they are reliable and affordable when we need it in 2030 and 2035. Karen mentioned hydrogen is one of the technology. Hydrogen is a molecule, just like natural gas is a molecule. It is an energy carrier, has different characteristics, but if you look at how we can produce hydrogen, and can we do that in an affordable way? We can produce hydrogen from clean electricity through electrolysis. That takes, if you convert the cost today, it's $40 per million BTU what it will take. You can produce clean hydrogen from natural gas and other fossil fuel through carbon capture and storage. That takes $20 a million BTU today. We need to bring this cost down and scale up this technology significantly. You heard Maria talk about advanced nuclear reactor. A high temperature advanced nuclear reactor could actually produce hydrogen in a cheaper way when electricity is not needed because we have plentiful wind and sun. So the opportunity to produce hydrogen in a better way, more affordable way, and keeping all options open, that is one of the nodes of innovation that LCRI is looking into. And then delivery. How do you take the natural gas pipelines, both upstream and downstream, and how do you start blending not just hydrogen, renewable natural gas? And going 2035 beyond, how do you keep on addressing the blending? There are issues related to corrosion, there are issues related to permeation, but as technologists, we will be able to address those. We can use the natural gas caverns that we use throughout the US. We have months of storage of natural gas. These caverns can also store hydrogen. And hydrogen is only one molecule. You can create liquid ammonia from hydrogen, which could replace jet fuel. You can create synthetic methane. You have renewable gas. So making sure we have storage and delivery, that's also another node of innovation. And then how do we use this new energy carriers in the long term to go to a net zero world? Can a gas turbine that's running on natural gas be repurposed to run on hydrogen? That's what Mitsubishi, GE, and other companies are working on. The current generation gas turbines can already be retrofit in 30%, 40% hydrogen. We're working with the manufacturers, we're working with the industry to look at all the balance of plant issues that needs to be addressed. There's a future that Low Carbon Resource Initiative envisions. It's a moonshot. We got to continue to clean the electric grid. We got to continue to do electrification of passenger car transportation. But this is the decade where we will have to make a commitment that before this decade is over, we would be able to have other sets of molecules, clean energy carriers. If you look at, it's not just hydrogen. Carbon capture and storage is going to be critical. And it's going to be critical because we will still use natural gas to power homes where it's too cold, where it takes a lot of money to convert. So we need negative emissions technologies. So we need negative emissions technologies like direct air capture with carbon capture and storage. We need biomass with CCUS. These will provide negative emission that will still enable us to use some natural gas that is critically needed. And then we're looking at a new molecule, a molecule that starts with natural gas. It continues to clean the system. We look at a blending with hydrogen, blending with natural gas, and we look at a future where we have multiple options to get to net zero, but let's make sure we do it in a reliable and affordable way. So that's the vision of innovation for the industry. I appreciate the invite. I appreciate your time and would be happy to answer any questions if there are. Thank you.
Arshad, year after year, I always enjoy your presentations. They give us a glimpse of the future, and they make it seem like we can get there. And so thank you for your optimism and your contributions to the industry. A couple of questions. You mentioned the importance of electrification of mobility. In terms of the grid, what are you all looking at in T&D that will enable the grid to deliver the value proposition that EVs bring and take advantage of their storage capabilities that I think we're all looking forward to, but recognize are a tremendous challenge?
Well, I started with transmission, and the transmission need is not for electric vehicle per se. If you're going to have 4x, 5x time wind and solar, we will need to put deployment of new transmission in steroid. But let's not just build the transmission line that we have built in the last 50 years. Let's build smarter transition lines, low EMF transition lines. So that's the transmission line focus. Getting back to distribution, our analysis clearly shows that we need in the grid approximately 30 megawatt, 30 gigawatt, 30,000 megawatt of 2 to 4 hour flexible resource. That will come from battery, but that will come from grid modernization that enable flexible load. Your thermostat and our thermostats are going to be controllable. Water heater is going to be controllable. Load flexibility will be key, but you need to modernize the grid so that the grid can use these resources to make a more flexible grid that enables more EV and that enables more wind and solar. That's what we call reimagining the grid, which needs to happen in this decade.
Fantastic. We have a question from an audience member. It says, what would be the future for vehicle to grid?
I think the future is limitless. We just have to pace ourselves. Right now, if you look at it, less than 2%, 2 out of 100 cars that are sold is EV. So as we see the ramping up, I think vehicle to grid will be limited, but the opportunities in the public transport. Opportunities, imagine if we electrify all the school buses in US. And imagine the time that the school buses are not used during summer. And in many regions, summer is the peak load. You can have utilities working with these public transport companies, working with the schools, and using these as flexible resource. That's where vehicle to grid comes in. When we get to a point where 6 out of 10 new cars are electric, you will see customers starting to see how they can reduce their cost of owning an electric vehicle. And you would see interest from customers, not just for smart charging. To us, it's more grid to vehicle that needs to happen right now, which is smart charging. But we see an opportunity on vehicle to grid, starting with public transport, school buses, but going into passenger cars down the road.
Lastly, what do you see the pathway for reducing the cost of electrolysis? What are you looking at, and what are you doing in your research initiatives?
So several opportunities. If you look at how did we reduce the cost of battery from $70,000 300-mile car to $10,000? It's not that we had a breakthrough in a new battery technology. We're still using lithium ion, but the volume went up and manufacturing got better, and better. So getting manufacturing better, making sure that there is policy incentives so that the early deployment does happen. If wind and solar were not deployed when they were very expensive at a large scale, you wouldn't have seen the cost reduction. So primary driver will be increased adoption. There are also innovative technologies on membrane technologies that are coming out. Technologies that will allow us to do electrolysis more effectively. And both couple those together, volume going up, scale of volume, cost coming down, and innovation primarily in membrane technologies, I think will lead us 10 years from now, another 2x, 3x reduction on what the cost today is of hydrogen through electrolysis.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for a view into the future. We always enjoy your presentations. We'll look forward to seeing you again next year, if not sooner. Thank you so much.
Thank you.